where production meets artistry. Welcome to the Producer Evolution podcast, where we talk about everything and anything music and recording related.
Hey guys, welcome to the Producer Evolution podcast. Today is a pretty special episode because we're interviewing Jfarr. You want to say hi over there?
Heyo, I'm Jfarr.
Yeah, so me and Johnny go back quite a ways. I think that was the first time I met you. We were in a Skype group back when you were Alias Bingo.
Yes, yeah.
Good old days when everyone was making melodic house. Those were the days. So I guess to kind of get us started over here. So do you kind of want to explain like what kind of music you're kind of doing right now, and you know what kind of sets you apart from everyone else in the crowd, I guess?
Sure. So I used to do a lot of EDM, and about a year ago I just kind of broke away from that. I just wasn't really in love with it as much as I used to be, and so I started diving into like the R&B / pop stuff or the synth pop stuff, and I like that away. Like I like it a lot more, and so I just started doing that, and then I went independent too. I stopped releasing with record labels for the most part, and I just went all independent and started taking control over my stuff again, and then I've seen growth, a lot of growth since then actually, and I think what really sets my music apart now is the fact that I do everything on my own still. Nobody else makes my beats for me. Nobody comps my vocals or does anything like that for me. Nobody mixes for me. I do it all myself still. So you still have that very like bedroom DIY type of sound, I would say.
I feel like a lot of people are kind of in that boat at first when we're all like trying to do everything ourselves. Like for me personally, I don't know. I just got to the point where like I will make it, but I don't really feel like mixing it. So I just want to send it to someone, but you know, you can't afford it.
Totally, yeah.
I remember when you started self-releasing though, that you started getting a lot of traction. I think sometimes even more than with your other releases. I remember back when both of us were on 99 Lives, you would get a lot of traction, but even on your own when you did Lonely.
Yeah.
Like that basically blew up, and that was all on you. Like, so like what was the process for well, not I guess just for that song, but like in general, like what do you usually do? It's like you have a song done, like what's your next step to go, and like who to send it to and what to do?
Yeah, so like for independent releases, my biggest thing is I still use this. I have like a notes list with it's probably over 100 emails now for like promoters, YouTube promoters, and also Spotify curators, like independent playlist curators. So for me, when I'm finished with a song, I upload it about a month before the release to DistroKid, so I can submit it, through the artist portal for playlist consideration. So I'll do that, but then I just about a week beforehand, after I get all my other like media stuff down, so like I have stuff to promote it with, and after I push it for about 2 weeks on Instagram and Twitter, I'll take it to the emails that I have, and I'll start shooting them out about a week before release, and then I just keep doing that, and then eventually sometimes you don't even get a reply, and then sometimes you do get a reply, and that's the best, because then you'll have someone saying, hey, we'll add it to our playlist, or hey, we'll upload it to our channel on the release day or a couple of days after the release. And that's how it all goes there, like from there. And then after the song comes out, I think it's especially important especially if you get some love from Spotify, if they add you, which they have been adding my stuff more and more recently. After you release it, I think it's especially important to make sure you get another song uploaded, because the algorithm will favor you so much if you keep releasing and you always have stuff on their portal. And actually, I got an email from Spotify because I have the canvases now. They gave me that. So, and the reason when they told me why I got it is because I'm so active. So that's why they gave it to me. So, and not everybody has those, which is super cool.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people, you have to be on like labels. I know Monster Cat had that deal for a while, and Sony too. So like if you're under that label, you would get those canvases.
Yeah.
From what I heard.
Yeah, some places, like some labels have deals with it, but I think it's more effective as an independent artist because then you stand out even more.
Well, of course, yeah. And that takes up a lot of time too. So like, how do you kind of balance that out with when it, like stuff like working your job? Because I know you're working in LA now. Like between that and other stuff, because I know some people who are just starting off and they're like, well, you know, I got college, I got like 2 or 3 jobs, and I also try and do music and try and, you know, if you don't, I feel like sometimes if you don't have the time to promote it and, you know, spend on the kind of stuff that you're talking about, that it becomes really hard to, you know, have like Spotify kind of favor you or kind of get that fan base built up, you know?
Yeah. So, just really quickly so people know, like I'm an audio engineer and I work at a couple of studios. I work at Capitol Records and I work with Sony Music and at Shangri-La and here in California, or Los Angeles, California. And then so I do that, and I usually pull about 70 hours a week normally. So I am very busy, but I still usually I'll have one day free of no sessions, so I have to just really put my nose into it and go a full 12 hours of working and promoting. So it's really hard. It really is hard. So when people say they don't have time, I totally get it, because especially when you're out here in LA, things move super fast, and like especially once you get your foot in the door with sessions, they continue to happen. So
I feel like LA, everything moves really fast except the traffic.
Totally. I mean, yeah, unless it's like 1 a.m.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. And so like still kind of sticking with the whole releasing thing. So for a lot of our audience are people just starting off, you know, making their first few tracks and whatnot. So I know a few people who are just like, hey, I have a few songs built up. Do you think they would probably benefit more from just releasing them first as singles and at some point making an album? I know a lot of people in the industry are saying that albums are kind of, you know, dying down, but then you see like Billie Eilish, even Millennium, like they're selling albums all the time, even though everyone else, it's kind of gone downhill. So like, what do you kind of think on that whole subject, especially when you're starting out, and in general, if you should release albums or not, just because you're in the industry a lot more than I am?
Dude, I would say get a couple singles out first, like 3 to 4 singles out first, get people listening, make sure you have Spotify's attention, and then drop a dope album. But that's the thing, is you can't take 4 months in between your last single and the album to come out. So you have to make sure, that's why, like, if people don't have anything out, I tell them, I'm like, don't release anything yet. Just wait until you have 4 to 5 singles and then an EP or an album ready to go. And that way, so over the next, 6 months while you're releasing those, because you drop a single every month and then you drop an album after your singles are out, you do that, and then you have all this other time now to make more music. But if you do that, and if you actually get Spotify's attention and you get people's attention, that's huge, because then you just dropped and you came out of nowhere with all these songs and then an album, and that's super dope, because I wish I could have done that. I didn't do that, but I mean, it is what it is. Everyone will have their own way of like getting their foot in the door, but that's how I would do it.
I feel like that's kind of clever too, because like if you like, let's say you're starting off and you make like 5 or 6 songs and you release a song every month, you have a buffer of like, well, essentially like a whole month to maybe even 6 months to, make a song. So that way, while you release a song, you have another song. So you still constantly have songs built up. So I feel like that's a pretty clever way. So that way you're not falling behind.
Yeah.
I know I kind of used to struggle with that. Where I'd be like, okay, it's been 4 years since I released. I better release something now.
That's what I did this last year, actually, for singles. I just kept dropping singles because I started with 3 built up, and then I just kept making them while they were coming out. And then eventually it's led up to this point where next week I have my EP coming out.
Yeah, so talk more about that EP you got coming out.
Yeah, Songs Written in Malibu is what it's called. It's hands down my favorite project I've worked on so far. That's gonna be out. So it's been a process because my last EP that came out was in 2017 on 99 Lives.
It's a damn good EP. You guys should listen to it.
That one was very interesting to me because that's when I first started experimenting with vocals on my tracks, and you'll totally be able to hear. But it did really, that EP did super well. Like it went into the top 200 albums for dance. So, on iTunes. So it did really, really well. And I got a lot of people listening through that, but it's been 2 years and it's time for another one. But this time this EP is independent released and it is completely different from the last EP. So
plus, aren't all these songs kind of like the ones you started making once you moved to LA too? That's why it's called, Written in Malibu.
Yeah. So what happened is I've made 2 full EPs, like four tracks and 5 tracks. So I've made 2 full EPs in between the pieces and songs written in Malibu, and those 2 will never come out. It took me so long to make something I actually enjoyed or something I was like really proud of. And then I moved to LA and I was in Malibu and I wrote all 3 of the songs in like a week, and then just took them back to my room and I just made the music. And yeah, it's really interesting because they kind of flow into each other for the most part. It just sounds like it sounds like a good EP in my opinion.
I actually can't wait to actually hear it. Got it right to my calendar. So what's it like just living and working in LA?
Dude, I was super scared moving out here. It's just nerve-wracking because there's so many people out here that want to do the same thing. And there's so many people that are there's just so many people. I mean, there's like 4 million people out here, and that's a lot of people in one city. And so like working out here, man, it's different because it's very fast. It's like I said before, it's fast paced. It's all about who you know. And to me, that was very wild to me because like networking is literally the biggest thing you can do and the most important thing. So everything I've done out here work-wise as an audio engineer and producer and songwriter has all been like word of mouth. I haven't like really promoted myself. It's all just been word of mouth. Somebody's recommended me to a session and it's flown in that way. But it's totally different than Ohio. Ohio's very laid back, super laid back, and LA's not. I like LA, but I miss the quietness sometimes. But if you want to work in the industry and if you want to like be where the sessions are at and be where the labels are at, then you're gonna have to be in New York or LA, or Nashville. You
having mentioned working in LA at Shangri-La of all places, it's like a world-renowned studio. So who have you worked with, that I guess you can legally say, like how has that experience kind of helped you develop, as like an audio engineer or musician?
Well, some of the people, the majority of people, I can't really say like the majority of the people who I've worked with, but it's working with some of the people I've worked with has just been absolutely insane. And they're just super talented people, and it's really pushed me, like really pushed me to get up on my skills. Like there's so many engineers out there who are better than me and who have more experience than me, but I keep working with people because of my attitude and my drive to keep learning, even though I mess it up. I'll mess things up all the time, dude. But that's part of being an audio engineer, though. So it's that's the biggest thing, is just keeping a positive attitude, and that will get the calls back every time.
Like out of all the people I know in the industry who are like, whether it be just audio engineers or musicians, you're like one of the most positive people I know. The one who's just always like, okay, we can get this done, no issue, come on, let's go do it. A lot of the people I know around here are kind of, I don't know if like pessimist is right, but more like realist. They're like, well, okay, we don't have enough time, so we'll probably kind of have to cut some corners. You're like, no, we can do it, you just keep pushing for that. And I feel like that's like a big thing you have to have as an audio engineer. I know one of my classes, my professor's like, hey, you have to be a likable person or else no one's going to hire you. You got to keep being like, hey, let's get this done. We're going to make it sound the way you want, and get your vision across. And I feel like, yeah, that personality there. So it really helps you get through that industry. And it helps anyone who has that kind of personality if they want to go into, live in LA, New York, or, work in a big studio, I feel like.
No, totally, dude. I get that. Yeah. You have to have a positive attitude, and you have to be outgoing, because part of your job is being social. And when nobody likes to be around like Debbie Downers. Nobody likes to be around people that just bring down the vibe of the area. So like, if you're that person, you really got to check yourself, because you're in that room as an audio engineer. I think we're underrated. We are the ones that keep the session going. We keep everybody in a positive attitude. You tell if the vocalist, his voice is getting, or her voice is getting tired, you're the one that's going to be saying, hey, why don't you take a 5-minute break, drink some honey, like some tea with honey, and then let's go back at it. You're the one that's got to keep them motivated, and you're the one that has to get the best take out of them. It's not the producer. The producer isn't the one that's going to be always talking to them. And sometimes there won't even be a producer. Sometimes it's just going to be you and the artist, like literally nobody else. So you're the one making sure everything technically works. You're making sure you get good sounds. You're making sure that the artist is comfortable, and you're making sure you're getting the best out of the artist. And then ultimately you're making sure that artist feels like they're at home.
It's just a huge thing, because even from like an artist perspective, if you go down into a studio, you're already nervous because, one, you don't know if the song's gonna sell, you don't know how it's gonna perform. Plus, you got to make sure the song comes out the way you want, and you want to make sure that the person you hired to run the studio session is going to know what they're doing. Be like, oh, hold on, let me figure out where this cable goes. Oh, that's not okay.
Right.
So they're already nervous as is. So yeah, of course, having calmed down is a huge thing about being, an audio engineer. In those kind of situations, especially in a big studio.
Yeah, totally. I definitely think that's a huge thing.
All right, so then what's kind of, being an audio engineer, like working at a professional studio, 70, maybe sometimes more hours a week, and being a musician, how are you able to balance that? I know some people take the route of, well, I'll do the audio engineer route because it's what I want to do, but it takes up so much time, so I can't do my own music. How do you personally balance it out? I know you said you kind of have a day a week to work on it, but like making the song, getting the lyrics, like what's your process? If you do it like before or after work, like what kind of do you go for that?
Lately, what it's been is I'll have an idea in my head, and then I'll write it down while I'm like, if I'm in a session, I'll have an idea and then I'll write it down, and then I'll come back home on whenever, if I have a day off or 2 days off. And also, that's the cool thing about being an audio engineer and being freelance, is you also make your own schedule for the most part. So but anyways, so like what I'll do is, if I know I want to write on a Friday, I'll make sure I write on a Friday, and then I'll come back home and I'll take that idea. Usually I'll just hop onto FL and start making some sort of instrumental, and then that's usually how it happens, is the instrumental comes first and then the lyrics come afterwards. And then sometimes if I'm vibing with the track a lot, usually I'll make the instrumental and cut the real, not the demo vocals, the real vocals all in one day. And then what will happen is, because like what I'll do for vocals is I'll cut a lead vocal, I'll cut a double, I'll cut 2 harmonies, like 2 or 3 backgrounds, and then like 2 ad-libs. So that way I have like a lot to work with, and that way I'll bring that all into FL, and then I'll finish the track around the vocals. Because otherwise, if I finish the track first, I add way too much, and then there's not enough room for the vocals. So that's kind of what I do. And then I'll use the vocals and I'll stretch them out. I'll go copy them, stretch them out to make like weird things. So
it's always good, like messing around with sound just to get this weird sound, I experiment finding your sound.
Yeah, totally.
Little altar boy, just help save the day, getting you messed up vocals. And so like, how do you, deal with the stress when you're doing both of those at the same time, especially when you're working so many hours too?
Man, that's a good question. Yeah, honestly, that's a really good question, because I think I just kind of like, I take like a 5-minute break in the day, and I'm like, okay, so this is what I have to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And then I just realize and tell myself that I will get it done. Like it will happen. So
you don't have like a procedure, something you do to calm yourself down before, like a really important studio session?
No, I just remember to take a deep breath.
Just remember to breathe. That's the most important thing.
Totally.
All right. So anything else you want to add, Johnny, or you think that pretty much covers it for today's interview here?
I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Johnny's new album, Songs Written in Malibu, coming out next week, you said? Or
yeah, November 22nd.
November 22nd, right before Thanksgiving. So now you know what to play for the family during Thanksgiving, if you celebrate it. All right. Hope you guys have a good one. Peace.
Bye.
Don't forget to check out Producer Evolution on Facebook and Instagram, and at Producer Evo on Twitter. You can find the show notes for this and our other episodes, as well as our courses on producerevolution.com. See you next time.